Hello, collective. How did everybody deal with the water energy of the magician? That's a tough one. We are feelings-based beings. Say that 5 times fast. And so the magician is the alchemist, right? They're the scientist. And science is based on facts, right? So when you're talking about water, you can test, there are tests that you can do on water physically, but when you're talking about the elemental aspect of water being feelings and emotions, there's really no way to measure that. So when you're trying to play scientist with your feelings, and alchemize and sublimate that, right? When you're talking about air is the masculine aspect, that's immeasurable as well. It's the gaseous quality of the unseen ethereal current, right? So how do we measure our thoughts? How do we measure our feelings? And when you're talking about creating a balance between head and heart, the proverbial head and heart, it can be quite challenging. And many of us, if not all of us, are in this place currently as cycle breakers of 3 of Swords, a lot of disappointment, that's the swords, the air in our heart, right? It's not out here. I don't know why I thought it would be. It's in the deck. But the 3 of Swords is, swords in our heart, right? So our head and our heart are confused, our intuition, and our emotions, right? When you follow your gut, you're following what you feel. But if you have a fracture in your intuition based on being a child of chaos, having narcissistic, abusive, neglectful, conditional upbringings, then it's hard to tell what is intuition, what's fear, right? And some fear is helpful, right? But it's fear holds you back, and it's usually something that's put upon you, whereas fear is really intuition protecting you. So if you are in a fear-based place, your intuition can, your fear can feel a lot like intuition, and vice versa, right? They can be very mixed up. And so Wands is all about action, right? It's the most obvious, overtly masculine element, whereas Earth is the most overtly feminine, right? These are the most polar opposites of elements, right? Of masculine and feminine, whereas air and water is that mutable modality. It's the in-between, it's the androgynous sort of, where you find discernment. Mutable quality is where you find discernment. So anyway, air and water. I started with Earth, was feeling very good, doing my yoga practices on Instagram. And now coming into the action part, I'm feeling better, but it's a little bit delayed, right? I just did my water signs yoga today, and I'm in Leo of my 12 steps of going through each zodiac sign and just like dedicating my energy to that. So if you're unfamiliar with that, or if you're interested in that, you can follow along on Instagram, Vegan Terrorist. So I'm doing that where I'm acting out the stages of the magician, right? So these magician readings, I'm just acting them out, and I did them 12 days, and then it times up with a new moon ceremony that I was planning and mulling over for a while. So, but fire is action, right? It's about taking that step forward. It's about pursuing something. It's, Aries, the fool, the leap of faith, right? It's the sun, following your heart, right? Having the strength to do so. And then temperance is about, that's that mutable, it's Sagittarius, so it's that mutable energy. So it is that kind of unseen, and that's really what the magician is. right? Anytime that you're in a process of breaking a cycle, shifting out of one habit, dropping an addiction, changing, right? Any change takes all of the energies, but temperance is very it's very intense, because this is the most it's very challenging, because it is that trifecta of air and water, the mutable modality with action. All right, so when you're talking about action, you want to have a direction, because if you're in cardinal energy or fire energy or masculine energy with no yin in there, with no softening, with no introspection, right? The mutable signs are all about the self-inventory, right? If you haven't done any of that stuff and you haven't worked through the air and the water, when you go to take action, take that leap of faith, again, faith is your intuition. And if your intuition is fractured, where are you going, right? You're just sort of aimlessly going somewhere. And it's more about the charging forward without any direction, without having that vision as part of your quest, right? You're just going, but you haven't taken the time to stay, and really do that work, that yin, feminine, nurturing work, to heal that Three of Swords, broken heart energy, to really work through your, balancing your head and your heart. That's what mutable energy is. All right, mutable energy is balancing the head and the heart, the swords and the water. It's balancing those two so that you can find discernment between the two, right? Because your intuition is up here in the head with the third eye and the crown, right? This is all like very spiritual, ethereal. But if you're talking about that's the 5D, but if you're talking about the 3D, the head is up here, and that's where we have mental disorders and overthinking and anxiety, and all that is up here. So there's a mind over matter in the physical, really getting yourself into an intellectual place so that you can lead your heart out of its heartbreak, right? You can strengthen your heart by just reading the signs, reading the facts, and looking at it like a scientist, right? This works, this doesn't. And it doesn't matter why, right? Because your emotions are about why, why didn't this work? And sort of dwelling, right? That's where you need to place a dwelling place. And so if you go into your emotions without any intellectual strength and assistance, then you're going to be deep in your emotions, and you're going to be over feeling, and that's where you get into a more depressive place, right? You can spiral into a place that is the shadow aspect of yin energy, right? And so you need it takes both, right? It takes the balance of the divine masculine and divine feminine. So that's what mutable energy is. You're getting into a place where you're balancing your own masculine and feminine, your divine masculine and feminine, right? And we have learned poor habits from our parents. That's why we are cycle breakers, because if we didn't learn poor habits from our parents and everything was all hunky-dory, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't need to break a cycle, because the cycle had already been broken. And that's why we're breaking the cycle, is for the next generation, and for the energy that comes after us. All right. So a lot of this work that we're doing is in solitude, and it feels very isolating, and it doesn't feel very rewarding, right? Until it does. And then once it does and everything clicks into place, the cycle is broken. You come into divine union and create a space that others can find to heal. Now, this could be your own children, this could be nephews, nieces, friends. You're healing your inner child through shadow work. And so by doing that, you are inadvertently, by proxy, leading and helping others to heal their inner child. And so when you create a space for that, it just opens the space more, right? It just opens up more space for the collective. And as an energetic field, that space is not defined, right? You can start a business, right? Which I don't like that term business when you're talking about spirituality, because spirituality is free and should not be monopolized. But I also know in this 3D world, this pentacle world, that it takes money, right? But there's a flow to it, and that's more pentacle energy. I don't want to talk a lot about that, but who knows, that might come out anyway. Just because with Aries is very much they're the ultimate masculine energy, right? They are the they're cardinal fire, they're double fire, so they're the most overtly masculine, whereas Taurus is the most overtly feminine sign, right? Because you've got earth, fixed earth, and then cardinal fire, right? And so Tauruses are very entitled to money. They are the king, queens, pentacles, right? They receive money. It's just something that when they are in a divine space, it comes to them. And that's more the Hierophant, right? With churches and things like that, the monks, they don't pay taxes. They don't work into that. The layman, the more masculine energies around them, the people that support this process, they do that work, and they choose to donate it or choose to invest it in this into this entity or this space that is created for spirituality. That way the space can stay pure. When you start to get into places like churches that ask for money, or gurus and influencers and stuff like that are always wanting to take your money, or tarot readers who are charging for general readings or things like that. It's like it just gets into a very tricky place, I find. So with fire, that can be something that you are challenged with when you do all this spiritual work. It's like, oh, now I can really make a living off of this, right? And Aries are very good at making money. They're very good at activating that. I don't want to say monopolizing, because monopolizing is a shadow aspect. So the light aspect of Aries is that they can they're very ingenuitive when it comes to creating stability and structure in the 3D, and so they can pretty much like make something out of nothing, right? That's like they really tap into that magician energy, and that's the Emperor as well. Aries is the Emperor, so that's where we're headed, right? We're headed to that place, and so we have the Empress and the Emperor. So with fire energy and this dichotomy that I said I really didn't want to talk about too much, maybe the topic of it might be the driving topic, so I'm just going to let whatever happen. But it makes the most sense because we're talking about the Emperor and the Empress. That's the divine union. It's the ultimate divine union, and that's Taurus and Aries. It can also be Libra and Capricorn, right? Just sign wise, but Libra and Capricorn are cardinal signs, right? They are opposing. No, they're not. Aries is the opposing sign to Libra, but they are. It's funny because Libra, the Empress, is from Venus, which Venus is Lucifer, right? As far as being like a star in the sky, is actually Venus, which is the star that falls. And if you look at the biblical and astrological celestial parallels, Venus is Lucifer, and then Capricorn is the devil in tarot. So it's just kind of funny because we have this sort of, and Lucifer was an angel, right? The devil was an angel. So you get into kind of there's Luciferians as far as like a religion, and then there's like Satanism. And I think that those get quite confused just because the name Lucifer. But if you look into Luciferianism, it's different. It's more the light aspect of the devil. So it's about kind of honoring the physical world, right? And the devil can be about attachments, right? Well, the devil is about attachments, but Capricorn can also be the workaholics. That cardinal energy is fire. And so Libra and Capricorn being this sort of like subtext to the Emperor and the Empress is sort of like a forewarning or a cautionary tale of not getting too much into the masculine aspect. Masculine is 3D, feminine is 5D, right? And it takes both, right? It takes that balance between the two where, we all have the same ingredients, different recipes, where you create this this balance between the head, the heart, the light, the dark, the masculine, the feminine, staying and going, and that takes discernment, and discernment takes discipline, right? You have to be disciplined and regimented, and that is a religion. It's your own personal religion. It's your own process. It's your own daily routine. It's not, the political and power-hungry societal organized religion. That's not what I'm talking about here. But the actual word religion, that's why it became that, is it's about regimen, it's about routine, it's about creating a system. And that's what the magician does. And then you get into a place of cardinal energy where you are headed in a direction and you're an unstoppable driving force. So the cautionary with cardinal energy and fire energy, with this masculine and feminine dichotomy, this sort of Luciferian light star energy, and the darker Saturn attachment devil energy is to temper the polarity and the space between the two, so that you can find discernment, so that you can find out when is a good time. Because if you shift from all of this feminine work that you've been doing, all this nurturing energy, you've balanced your masculine and feminine, from your overtly feminine pentacles to your androgynous feminine energy of water, and then you've shifted into a more masculine place with swords and air energy, right? And you've learned to kind of build a spherical, unconditional place between those two. And then you shift into your very 3D masculine energy of cardinal fire, of being the emperor or attracting an emperor, right? If you're the divine feminine, you're trying to attract an emperor, just know that there are false emperors out there, right? Just like there are false empresses out there, because they've shifted too much into the 3D, too much into the tangible, too much into attachments, and their Saturn energy, which is the root chakra, right? They're not eliminating, they're very attached, and they're holding on to old identities, old past connections, right? And the true emperor and empress are those who are divine. They have allowed many cycles of death and rebirth, until they were able to purify. That's what temperance is about. It's about purifying yourself and ridding yourself of impurities and the sediment, right, that's in your blood. Because you're breaking cycles, you're breaking ancestral cycles, DNA cycles, family cycles, where all of that, you've literally been handed this genetic code from your mother and your father. So you have to remother and refather yourself through that process of tempering the masculine and the feminine, and that's that water and air mutable energy. All right, so I'm going to get into the things here because we're 20 minutes in, but I feel like that is the forewarning, and that's going to be the driving force here. So that's really what temperance is about. Everything that I just talked about, it's kind of covered everything, but it's mostly like, that's why I designed this. I channeled and divined that this should be the way that I do these readings, is starting with mutable energy and then moving into fixed energy. So water and air, mutable, androgynous energy, into that fixed earth energy with the discipline. So we're kind of going backwards, right? Because if you take a step forward with cardinal fire energy, cardinal is fire, if you take a step forward in that fire masculine energy and you don't know where you're going and you take a leap of faith, but your faith is broken, then you're going to just be jumping off a cliff. That's self-harming. That's, suicidal stuff, right? You're just jumping to jump at that point. So when you shadow work, you're going backwards. So even though cardinal is the leap of faith, and then you stay on that path through fixed energy, and then you come to a place of discernment through that discipline, right? So it's the decision is cardinal, the discipline is fixed earth energy, and then the decisiveness and discernment is kind of decisiveness, but yeah, decisiveness leads to discernment through discipline. I feel like I jumped around a lot. I hope that seems like a congruent thought, but because we're shadow working, we're going backwards. So I'm doing it backwards is how I'm reading it. So that way you can heal the fractures, and then when you take that leap of faith and you're in a new path of discipline, right? Because when you're in an old path of discipline, the cycle that you're trying to break is about attachments. It's about the lower vibrations. It's about being fixed on the 3D and the tangible and monopolizing your spirituality in a way, right? And that can come in a lot of different ways, right? That can be from casual romantic partners, right? You're monopolizing is just a term to referring to creating a 3D attachment out of something that is 5D, right? And you want to, with the divine union, that is bring the 5D into the 3D. So it's a very tricky balance of not making, monopolizing is like conditionalizing. You're creating a condition to something that, divine God is love, and love is unconditional. If it's anything else than that, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. When you're talking about love, I'll love you if, I'll love you when. If there's any sort of add-on or ellipsis to love, then it's conditional. It's not love. It's not authentic. It's not divine. It's demonic. All right, so you're coming out of a demonic place. You're your own demons, right? But you're also cleansing and purifying out the demons that were handed down to you. And that's the remothering and fathering thing. And that's where you can get into a place of, wounded warrior, woe is me, like, this doesn't seem fair, why do I have to deal with this? Because you chose this. When you incarnated, you said, that's the life I want. Those are the crazy parents I want. That's the genetic thing. That's the challenge I really want, right? And whatever you believe about the afterlife, the 5D, the ethereal, God, devil, heaven, hell, whatever you believe about that, essentially you chose this. Your spirit chose this path because it wanted to rise to the occasion. It's like challenge accepted. And if you are a true divine cycle breaker, right, which if you follow these, you resonate with these, you know that, you've been here before. This is not your first vegan rodeo, right? And so it's like when you go through cycles so many times, when you go through the same thing so many times, it's like, this is your way of spicing it up, right? You're like, let's try this, and Temperance Sagittarius energy is all about trying new things. Okay, and the Magician, these two work hand in hand to get the recipe right, to get the formula right, to where it's, you see how one thing reacts and you're like, okay, let's try this lifetime. Let's try this life cycle, right? Whatever you believe about past lives, if you believe that was, a decade ago, right? Every decade is maybe a life cycle for you. Maybe every year is a life cycle for you. Every 4 years. It could be based on your life path number, right? So if you know your life path number, maybe you notice that you sort of like cycle out of an old version of yourself every however long. Like I'm a life path 4, so I notice like most of my major life events have happened in 4s, and that's just how it happens. So I just noticed that that's kind of like, and then suddenly something happens and the tower comes in, or I am ahead of it, and and I want the next phase, and I'm ready to go through that death and rebirth cycle, because that's what I asked for. And if I don't activate in that time frame, if I don't activate when I said that I would, the universe comes in with a tower, right? So Temperance is fortifying yourself. It's about building resilience, spiritual resilience, and physical resilience, right? You build it through, you temper your emotions, you temper your desires, you temper your lower vibrational wants and needs, right? Because you don't want to obliterate the ego. The ego is important. The ego is indicative and instructive on how to live in this terrestrial existence as a celestial being. So not the quickest way or the, the fastest way, even though that is very much that sort of, this is tempering your patience, right? Temperance is all about patience. So the struggle there can be wanting it now, right? I want it now. But you have to continue with your scientific formula of taking things out of your life, right? Withholding. This is about restraint. This is about sobriety. This is about really purifying your space so that you don't slip into the dark angel aspect of this card, right? This is like that Luciferian thing, right? You are listening to your 3D, but you're not allowing your 3D, that inner child that wants what it wants, the little inner narcissist that just doesn't have any devil may care, doesn't have any sort of regard for anything outside of itself. You're listening to it, and then as the experienced adult, right, you're reparenting yourself. So it's where your inner child might want to jump off the roof because it thinks it can fly. And maybe you had big dreams growing up. You probably had big dreams growing up, and they were snuffed out by a parent that was in their shadow aspect, that was led by fear. But now that you're led by faith, and that's the work that you're doing, you can say, all right, I'm gonna have to build you some wings, or I'm gonna have to put some sort of cushion down on the ground so when you jump off, because you as an adult and a very 3D tethered individual, you're very terrestrial as an adult, right? As a child, you come from the celestial. You're closer to the celestial, so you're kind of like, I can do anything. And you don't want to snuff that out in yourself. You want to listen to the intuition and not be led by fear. The intuition is also aware that the physical body cannot fly, because we were not designed that way. So you have to either take flying lessons and get a craft that you can fly in, or be harnessed into something. So it's like safety first. So this is like safely exploring your wants and desires in a purified way, if that makes sense, because I feel like it might not. And you only know this by testing yourself. You only know this by creating resilience and creating that, it's applied resistance to your ego. It's challenging the ego in a way that helps you realize the strength of your spirituality again, right? You're reconnecting with your faith because you're creating doubt and resistance. I don't like the word doubt just because doubt sounds like fear, but you're creating some applied stress and resistance to challenge the ego. So you're kind of putting the ego in its place, but you won't know what place to put it in if you don't listen to it at all. So a lot of people want to say, oh, I'm going through an ego death, and like they're rising above their ego and they have absolutely zero attachments. That's a shadow aspect in itself, because you're actually, when you deny the ego, it's like that little kid who wants your attention. It will come back. Your thoughts will return, right? If you just deny thoughts that you have or desires that you have, they will creep up and they will creep out in various ways because they want to be heard. The mommy, 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 they will come back. But you want to acknowledge them. Listen, I hear you. We're not going to do that, but I hear you. So let me find a way that we can explore what you're really wanting, right? Maybe a good book for you would be, if you don't know your love language, or even if you do, there's the 5 love languages of children. So this is really about like exploring and not indulging, right? You're listening to, and you're allowing your ego and the 3D inner child to show you and reveal to you what it is you're actually desiring, right? Like when we have a craving or desire for alcohol, what do we really want, right? First off, we probably want the sugar. But really what we want is that freed inhibition, right? So you could be very introverted, but then when you drink or you do drugs, then you are, you feel free to be extroverted, right? So there are other ways that you can dance, like in a flow space, where you can go to sobriety bars, right? Like kava bars or juice bars, where you can explore getting healthy sugars in a social environment that's a little more low key, that doesn't force you to have to be the lower vibrational version of yourself to get attention, right? Because that's what you really want. So you were probably denied attention. You were neglected. Your love language was not spoken when you were growing up. So this is the remothering, the refathering, tempering yourself to a place where you can be your own divine masculine and feminine, right? Because you don't want to attract a divine masculine or feminine counterpart if you're not in a balanced place within, right? If you can't lead and follow yourself, if you can't trust and guide yourself, then you're going to you might attract a twin flame, but you guys are not in your divine union frequency yet, right? So you're going to, like attracts like, so whatever phase you're in, you're going to attract that. So you want to make sure that you're holistically approaching this so that you are purified, fortified, and balanced before you try to incorporate somebody else in there, right? Because if you're falling off balance is all about like surfing, right? You're surfing on those emotions. You're using the wind speed and the water, the current above and the current below are really guiding you into surfing, and where you can kind of play on the surface, right? So if you're in a place where you're falling off every second and you try to put another person on your board with you, that's going to be a nightmare, right? So you really want to make sure that you've got your own grounding and your own your chakras are aligned, right, in a way that your core strength is built up to where you are able to support yourself, you're able to balance yourself, you're able to read how the upper and lower currents influence your ability to balance before you try to bring somebody else into that. Because if you don't know your love language, if you don't know your life path number, if you don't know your energy, good luck bringing somebody else into that, because they're going to be just as confused, because they're not you, all right? And if they understand you on a lower frequency, that's because they're still on a lower frequency, right? So, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So we have the Page of Wands, the 7 of Wands, the 5 of Wands, and the 10 of Wands. All right, so this is 7 of Wands is 6 Wands coming at you, right? So this is about evaluating. 6 Wands is about your self-worth, right? Your self-value. So you really need to get to a place to where you're not fighting your self-worth, right? You're not, this is affirmations, this is cutting out old belief systems, lies that you were told about yourself, right? Somebody that said, you can never fly. You can fly, you just have to make accommodations to do it in this world. So you were negated, you were neglected, and then so you're actually fighting your own success. This is self-sabotage, all right? So, which puts you into a place of blocks communication with self, the 5D, right? 5 of Wands, you're not able to do magic with the 5D. You're not able to be the magician and communicate with the ethereal, with the spiritual world, because you're blocked. You're battling yourself here. All right, and how do we come out of any 5? Just like simple math, you round it up to a 10. You bring an ending. You stop working for others. You stop telling lies to the lies of others. You have to disconnect and really do the work, the spell work, the protection work, to make sure that nobody else's wands are pointed at you, right? And they're putting it into a nice little bundle there, which is going to make a nice fire, right? So you may have to do like burn ceremonies. Well, they're very beneficial. I don't know if you have to do them, but they're very beneficial when you're doing craft as a magician in the 3D. This is like old documents, old photos, textiles, things, tangible things that hold energy, and then also spiritual connections, energetic connections, overworking for others, right? These are attachments, and 10 is the number of endings, but if you also 10 equals 1, so it's a new beginning. With every ending, with every death, there's a rebirth. So that's how you work through any sort of 5 lack mentality, wounding, blocked energy. 5 is a blocked energy, and you unblock it by cutting it out, leaving it behind. Stop bearing the burdens of others. Stop telling yourself the lies that were told to you. They're not your truths, right? So there's a need to come into an Ace of Wands energy, which is over here in Aries, and that is telling yourself a new truth, right? That's a new belief system. The 6 of Wands as well, which is in self-worth, which is fixed energy. And that's that Page of Wands. See, the Page of Wands is just looking at their wand. This is it's a message, right? You're getting a new message, and you're supporting yourself on this walk. This is you alone. It is a solitary path for a while until you get to a place where you can surround yourself with people. You can attract lovers, right? 10 of Wands can also be, they're very phallic shaped. This can be about lovers. Wands and fire is about passion, right? So this is, if you haven't watched the why you should be single for a year according to tarot before you come into divine union, that's a big part of it, right? If you're allowing the sexual energy of others to come in, sacral energy, scorpionic, plutonian energy, right? Pluto is endings, it's death. It's also the Tower, which is Aries energy as well over here. If you are not ending these connections, if you're not putting a stop to this self-sabotaging, self-deprecating energy, then the universe will hold you accountable for what you said you wanted from this life, which is a divine union, and you'll receive a Tower gift. And so this is the evaluation, the inventory, the analyzing, the observation of self, right? You're not looking at anybody else, right? This is like celibacy, right? Take some time away from that. Abstinence, right? Scorpionic energy also talks about the sacral and reproductive, right? If you're putting other energy literally into your body or into the bodies of others, you are exchanging energy in a way that conflicts with their divine sexual energy. Our divine sexual energy is our source of creative energy. You are going to be unable to create if you are continuing to allow the vampiric, taking, conditional, low vibrational energies to come in and come in. Yeah, sacral energy, reproduction. You could have issues with reproduction, but either way, you're going to be creatively infertile or creatively impotent, right? You're going to be dealing with a lot of blockages in your sexual energy, in your passions. So if you're trying to start something new and create a space for art or any sort of expression, then you have to purify your sexual energy. You have to purify your creative space, all right? Or you're not going to be very good at creating with somebody else, all right? Who was that? Like Professor Moody. Well, when he's, yeah, the guy with the tongue, Harry Potter. Anyway, magic, wands, yeah. This also with wands, when you're dealing with wands, as the magician, when you're dealing with fire energy, wands energy, as the magician, you're going to have a lot of demonic influence and black magic and you know, and that could be like spell casting. People could just be gossiping about you, but spells, words are powerful, and so you're going to be feeling a lot of that influence. So there's also using fire, forging yourself with fire, right? Keeping candles, burning sage, doing burn ceremonies, right? To eliminate those attachments, because not just in your physical body, but if you have items around you that hold energy from past connections, it's like a conduit, and they still have access to you because thoughts are powerful, right? Thoughts are swords, air energy, but it's how we communicate with ourselves. And if we are looking at things, right, we don't even realize that it's such a microsecond or less than that, how energy moves. But if we're looking at something and we have a gift from an estranged family member or a toxic friendship or a conditional past lover, and we have convinced ourselves through the attachment devil energy that, oh, we need that, we use that, we like it, whatever, it doesn't remind me of them, it doesn't. But if we're looking at it and we have that microcosmic second of thinking about that person, that thought is so powerful, it keeps us tethered. So using swords energy to cut out everything, right? Queen of Swords energy, 10 of Swords, cutting that shit out, cutting it out, because you're still allowing these people access to you in a 5D way. You're still giving them access to your energy. So yeah, this can get very into how, well, this will get very much into, and you'll have to evaluate that as you're going through it, how you view magic, how you view dark, light magic, witchcraft, spellcraft, all of these things, because, and your spirituality, right? It's all going to be the nomenclature that you use, the words you're saying about yourself, right? This isn't just doing affirmations in the mirror and saying, I am beautiful, right? What other messages and what other thoughts what other energy are you giving to the past, all right? Because if you try to take that leap of faith off the cliff into the new beautiful river that takes you to the island of utopia, and you're basically just gonna be bungee jumping, but if you bungee jump off a cliff, you're going to just swing and hit that wall, right? You don't want to keep yourself tethered to the top of a cliff that you're jumping off of, all right? Although bungee jumping is a lot of fun if you're into that. But again, that's if you want to fly, do it in the safety of a harness and with, people that have a license, I guess. But yeah, you could, and with Wands energy, you could be a bit of an adrenaline junkie. That is kind of the Sagittarius and Aries. The very, they like the rush, right? There's a lot of masculine energy. There's a lot of, swords, kind of up with the Temperance, the Sagittarius. Why is this wind bothering me? I don't know, I just got irritable for a second. I've never been irritable before, that's so shocking. But the and then you have cardinal fire. So that's the masculine aspects. But then when you come into Leo energy, this fixed energy, this is the discipline. And discipline sounds kind of harsh. You probably think like military, religion, very like monk life or whatever. And you may be a monk, or like practicing that. It's a very feminine, receiving energy, right? The monks are channeling, right? They channel and stay tapped into. This is like Hierophant energy. The sun is following your heart, tapping into your breath, right? So this is taking that swords energy out of the thoughts and into the breath, right? More into, because it's still an exchange of energy, but you inhale information from around you. So you start to evaluate when you cut things out. Oh, I like the shift. I like what I'm breathing in now. I like the information I see now, where it was probably very cluttered before, right? So you eliminate everything through that purification process. And then here is the discipline of you're going to have a lot of people who you're going to look attractive to, right? Leos are very attractive. They're the center of the solar system. They usually have great hair. And then, the strength, it's going to take your strength. I don't know why I needed to look at it like that. Because it's the infinity symbol is interchangeable, no matter which way you look at it. But you are breaking a cycle. So it is kind of like, you know that if you continue this way, and the magician also has the infinity symbol here, right? So this is very much about keeping the discipline, right? Keeping the, I've said that so many times now, but I'm having trouble finding another word for it. But it is that determination, that steadfast faith. This is truly faith, right? When you're tapped into the sun, God energy, right? You're playing with that, you're in that childish energy, right? You are, and the sunflowers and everything that, and cardinals are also associated with the sun, as like a sign, and they're, indicators of angelic, guidance and protection. So you may see cardinals around you, sunflowers, but the sun is God. It's the source of energy of our entire solar system. Well, the center of our chakras and our internal solar system is our heart space. This is really following your heart. And when you follow your heart, even though it looks all fun and hunky-dory with this little kid, I don't know why I keep saying hunky-dory, it takes a tremendous amount of internal fortitude to stay on that path alone, right? Think about a lion, right? They're usually, yes, they have a pride, but they're quite watchful before they chase. So this is like keeping your eye on the prize and trusting in divine timing and knowing when is the right time to go, right? Because with earth energy, it's not about how fast you can go. It's, and with Temperance and Sagittarius, you have your target, you're the archer, right? You spot your target. Temperance is that pullback, right? You don't want to release the arrow. Now, when you get into that swords and masculine energy, you might just think Legolas, like how many fucking arrows can you carry? Like that's some serious magic there, some elf witchcraft. But this is about the drawback. This is the temperance is actually about the tension in the bow before you release to your target. The Leo, the fixed energy, is that inhaling, right? You're taking in new information and you release on the exhale. You release in that place of stillness because you've already done the work that's going to give you the speed to launch forward at your target. So you have to pay attention to your target, focus on your target, and really continue. That's the trust and the faith in God, the sun, source, spirit, whatever you call it, It is within you. We're made of all the same shit inside and out. So when you exhale, right, you've taken the new information, you've purified it, you've gobbled it up, you've become an filtration system. I was gonna say infiltration, and you may find a lot of infiltration in this phase, right? Because you're going to want to release that arrow. You're going to want to move forward. You're going to want to take that leap of faith because you've seen where you're headed. You've seen the target, and it's very exciting. You've seen that utopian island. But again, this is staying the course and trusting that those that you've put in the past, it didn't really mean anything about them. You're not saying that they're bad. You're just saying they're not aligned with you. They're not good for you. They're not evil, right? They don't have to be wrong to not be right for you. And so this is you having that trust and faith in yourself, in the decisions that you've made, right? In the discerning place, right? Because when you do this in a divine way, you've already made the decision in that cardinal energy, right? When you're doing it now, you're going backwards in the shadow work way. You have to make a decision to go into a place of discernment, right? The infinity loop. It all doubles back on. It's all connected. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. Like I had to do that. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. It takes all three. It takes the Holy Trinity: body, mind, spirit, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, me, myself, and I. However you look at it, it takes cardinal, fixed, mutable. All right. It takes all the elements. The four to make that fifth one, right? The consciousness, right? It to come to that place, it takes, and when you think about the four elements for the magician, right? Because that's what they're wielding. It's actually three when you break them down into modalities, right? Because you've got cardinal for fire, fixed for earth, and then you've got mutable for air and water. It's the current, right? So the 4 is a balance number. We are coming, the end goal over here, right? If you can call it that, is, but it's already destined. It's already in your cycle if you do this work. And that's the trust of having the discipline and the fixed energy to just, fixed signs can seem very stubborn, but they are determined, right? They're all in or all out. You've made the decision to take this path, and now you're going to stay on it, right? And this takes knowing your self-worth. The 3 of Wands is planning, right? You're not stepping out yet, but this is the planning. And it's gonna, in this place, it's gonna seem you're gonna feel very crazy. You're gonna feel like no one else is doing this. No one else has done it. You're the first person to do this. That's why it's your divine path. You're paving a new way. And so you can read all the books, you can talk to all the people, but the only way you're really going to know the plan and the steps that you're going to have to take, and when the divine timing is, when you are ready to release, is to tap into source, right? So you're staying in that place of observing, of analyzing. Analyzing is a little more masculine with that swords energy. When you come into fixed energy, you're just observing. You've already cast the spell. Now you're just waiting for the results, right? And this is within, right? You're not casting spells on anybody else. You're not saying, you're not casting any spells to, attract your divine counterpart. You can do manifestations of what you want, create boundary standards, red flags. You can write all that down, right? You can do all of that kind of spell work. But you're not trying to call in one particular individual. You're not doing any work on anyone that you see in your 2 eyes, right? Your nose. You can do manifestations to call in your divine counterpart with your 3rd eye from the 5D. only. Anything else, it starts to get into a black magic place, and you will reap the shadow benefits of that. So don't do that. Or do. Free will. Have fun. So yeah, this is your Holy Trinity, right? This is your divine union of self. When you come into that fixed energy, fixed earth, or fixed fire, you're coming into the fixed is earth. So you're coming into that very grounded place of, yes, I'm a terrestrial being, I'm an earth being, I'm in that place of tapping into the earth, but I am letting the sun work its magic, right? And this is like one day at a time. So temperance, you've purified, you've gone through some sort of sobriety, you've cut people out. This is one day at a time. This takes a lot of strength and an internal fortitude to really keep reminding yourself that you are worthy of everything that you set your eyes on. You're worthy of this utopian space. You're staying balanced with the magic within, right? Just doing that work, the self-work, to keep your elements, and you can be doing work within your space with the elements outside of you, you know, working with fire, working with water, working with air, and, you know, working with the earth grounding. You can be burying things, right? With burn ceremonies, one way to work with everything is you can have some water, dig a hole, put your items that you want to burn in there, burn them, bury them, and then the ashes and stuff will go into the ethers, and then you water them, right? So you can wield kind of all of the elements. That's just a quick example, but this is going to be a very challenging place because you want it, you want what you've seen, you know how good it's going to be. And the longer it takes to get to you, the longer is because we're measuring it in our little ego way. Like the time here, how many cycles around the sun are we doing? How many sunrises, sunsets, how many moons do we see, right? We're in this moon energy. The new moon is coming up, and it is, you know, Leo season, new moon, on the 4th, right? 8-4, right? So this is like balancing your elements with your 8, your infinity. So that's the season that we're in right now. So this is, if you are going through these phases, if you have Leo heavy in your chart, you could really be feeling, or fire heavy in your chart, but particularly Leo, you could be really feeling that. Actually, my Uber driver the other day was, their birthday was on the 4th. So, which is the new, I was like, it's the new moon. I think she was a Christian, so when I started talking about tarot, she was kind of like, oh yeah. But anyway, 8 of Wands and 9 of Wands. Yeah, this is continuing to, 8 is that new cycle. You're creating a new cycle. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. Everything that happened in the past. So not ruminating on the past too much. You know, keeping yourself protected and guarded from that past energy coming in and infiltrating your space as you're continuing to filter, you're continuing that temperance work, you're keep yourself strong and awaiting the divine timing, awaiting the time to launch, because lions are not cheetahs, they're not that fast, right? I mean, they can catch me, but they're not particularly fast, and they're, because the land that they live in, food is not as abundant, right? Things are kind of scarce. What you're creating and what you're calling in may seem scarce. Your faith may be getting scarce. You might feel very hungry for it. And that's just, those are all indications to just stay the course. And that's what 9 of Swords are. Yeah, you could be dealing with a lot of anxiety and impatience and like overthinking. The swords and thoughts and communication from the past are going to be creeping in to try and knock you off this horse. So yeah, maybe they're vegans. They don't want you on that horse. But you see this child is on the white horse, and I would say the white horse is divine intervention, right? It's the knight. It's the coming in to save the day. You're just waiting on feminine energy is about waiting. It's about waiting to receive. So you're just waiting for it to come in. But if you wait in a swords energy, then you're not really waiting. You're not waiting in faith. You're waiting looking at your clock. You're waiting, in a masculine way, right? And when you wait in a masculine way, then you're not in your feminine energy of receiving. So this could also be about, particularly because the closer you get, the closer you get to God or your divine path or your utopia, the closer the devil gets to you, right? So, and the devil is within, all right? Just like God is within. So the closer that you get to following your heart, the closer that you get to being centered and aligned with your chakras, with your purpose, with your thoughts, your beliefs, your releasing, your creating, right? All of these things, your breath work is really happening. You're moving your body, you're opening all your chakras, everything feels balanced. There is no more of that 5 energy. 5 energy is going to try and come in and knock you off the 6, right? We got the little Christmas wreath there, which is like Capricorn, right? So it's like that devil energy is going to try and come in and take your magic away. And this could come in the form of your own thoughts with swords energy. This could come in the form of individuals from the past or new individuals, but they are basically just the same energy from the past, trying to creep their way back in. And because you're in a place of feeling really good about where you are and feeling balanced, feeling strong, feeling aligned, you're so close to this Emperor, Aries, Fool energy of taking this leap of faith, of starting this new journey, of making the decision to be the next version of yourself. It's kind of easy in this place to you might think, oh, I should be able to recognize demonic energy very, very easy, but it starts to look just like how parasites and viruses, how they adapt and they overcome and they acclimate and evolve into being better at being a virus and taking from you, right? The devil was an angel first, right? So the devil, if you're talking about energetically, or if you're personifying that energy, the devil knows how God looks and how God operates, right? God created the devil, and the devil, that was one of his angels, right? And then, so the way to God, the devil's very familiar with, because the devil went that path, right? It's like when you reverse your maps on your Maps app, right? It's like you can just switch the directions, right? That's what the devil did. So they know the way back because they just came from there, right? And they don't want anyone else to go there. So they're very keen to be a predator, right? So if you think like how a lion hunts, right? You might be in the grass waiting for your divine timing so that you can be fed, and you can feed your pride, you can feed your family, right? The one you create or the one that you attract with this new version of yourself, right? But there is another pride of lions out there that's mimicking you, right? So yeah, you have a lot of like jealousy and spell work and things like that are going to try and come in and fuck with you. And see, this person they're guarding their wands, right? This is the 9th wand that they're holding there to guard this 8 of wands, to guard this new path. So you want to make sure that you're keeping sort of soldiers, right? Little energetic soldiers along the way to guard your path. And then they can kind of like walkie-talkie you and say, hey, got a little bitch ass demon on the way. at, you know, marker 3, marker 8, marker whatever, and see their head is sort of bandaged up. That's where that swords comes in. I feel like that there's a lot of overthinking. There's going to be a lot of temptation. A lot of people are going to be using words, right? The devil whispers and demonic energy, and people from the past, narcissists. They really know how to use their words. They do not know how to use their fucking actions. So this is also about kind of like a Rambo, not listening to, and also when the heat gets hot, you also need that little sweatband there, because you don't want the sweat to be dripping into your eyes. Like, this is keeping your eyes open, keeping your space very clean, energetically, keeping your field very clean, and you know, they say cleanliness is next to godliness, right? So this is like keeping your energy purified, keeping your thoughts purified, so you're always doing the work, the shadow work from everything that you've learned, because if this is the big finale of Aries coming up, then you really want to make sure that you're not, you're high risk for the devil in this spiritual warfare. You're high risk because you're that much closer to divine union. And once you get into divine union, it's so powerful that it's kind of pitiful, right? It's like Constantine, right? You know, you come into, like, you have the medium, and then you have this like archangel sort of warrior of God, right? But there's a lot of like 3D attachments with the smoking and drinking and all that stuff, like it just sort of being like a very darker attached, right? He's pretty much closer to the devil because he has to be, to understand, right? Like profiling, you have to understand your enemy, you have to understand your opponent, and then you have this medium that comes in, and they have this sort of coming into this place where they're like so powerful together. I don't know what she is. Keanu Reeves is a Virgo. So yeah, Virgo, Virgin, this is also, you're continuously, with fire, you're continuously purifying, and kind of re-virginizing yourself, returning to that inner child, keeping your passions pure, keeping your temptations pure, and keeping your temple fortified, right? Because you don't want this tower to come in. This is, again, more scorpionic, Plutonian energy. Pluto is furthest away from the sun. And so it's kind of like when you're playing a board game, right? It's like, oh, return to the beginning, right? That's kind of what the tower does. It knocks you back to center. It neutralizes all of the external influences and distractions and things that are keeping you from your divine path, because that's what you asked for. So this is assistance, right? So your divine assistance can come in the form of a tower. It just doesn't feel like it at the time. It feels like the end of the world, and it is the end of the world being fixed energy, right? So it is the end of the world as you once knew it, right? You can go back, but once you've made this decision and this commitment to the divine path, which you did in incarnation, so your life has probably been quite tumultuous and chaotic, but it will only get more so, right? It's like taking antibiotics. It only gets worse before it gets better. Not that I condone taking antibiotics, but I'm just familiar with them. But either way, you're going to jump. So if you're not going to jump when that time is right, when that divine timing comes in, if you're not going to take that leap of faith, then, and you're in a place of fear, right? Like the universe will send you a tower to, you said you wanted to, you said you were ready to jump on that train at whatever time. We'll just say at 8 o'clock, because with the 8, the cycles of 8, the new cycle, you wanted to jump on at 8 o'clock. Well, it's 8 o'clock. It's 7:59. And you haven't jumped. So here's a tower, because you're going to jump, right? You're either going to jump out of a tower, right, and come back to earth, because there's no way to go but down, and come back to that feminine energy of tapping back into self, aligning with source, getting back into that Hierophant energy, because you cannot attract an emperor if you're not in your Empress energy. And an emperor does not pursue very often. They only pursue, they don't chase, they only pursue an Empress, right? So the Fool is that leap of faith. It's Aries, Aquarius, right? It's dancing in the moonlight. It's dancing with that feminine energy. It's dancing when the moonlight is the polarity to the sun. Pluto is also considered a moon, right? So it might feel the furthest away. There's a lot of lack of clarity, especially if you're doing a new moon ceremony. The moon is not out. It's not even a full moon. It's not even a quarter moon. You're in a very place of darkness. That is the ultimate faith. 1:11 on the clock there. All right. That's the ultimate faith, where you say, all right, I did say I was going to be on that train at 8 o'clock. So here we go. The Two of Wands is, see, you have the Three of Wands is that planning, right? So you come from 10 of Wands, and then you sort of reduce them down and down and down until you get to a place of the final decision. And see, the world, it's that last look at the world you once knew. You're never going to come back to that place where you boarded the train. And this can be very sad, right? And that's where you honor the feminine, you honor the nurturing inner child, right? When maybe you are physically moving, right? But any type of change, right? The most traumatic changes are divorce, death, moving, and, having kids. Why? It's not so much the new, it's what you're letting go of, right? And it's always an idea that you're letting go of, right? When you moved into that house with the idea that this was going to be your home, and now it's not. Maybe you moved in with an idea that it was going to just be a temporary home, so it's maybe not that intense, but you still had life in there. So it's still releasing life, and what is life but an idea? So you're releasing that when you have children, you're allowing the old version of you that's single, that is not a parent, to die. You're also releasing your own childhood because you want to do it differently. You're breaking that cycle, right? Anytime you change your appearance, anytime you change your surroundings, right? You change relationships, you change your way of thinking. Anytime you change, anytime you make a decision to move forward, you're always going to have to let something else go. And see how it's bracketed to the wall? It's like, all right, I'm burying this, I'm leaving this here, and I'm moving forward. I'm going to a whole new world. Yeah, there could be actual moving going on. And see, but this one, this old world is attached to something in the 3D. It's attached to this building, this castle, this fortress, whatever. But when you're an emperor, an empress, you must leave your castle of the kingdom that you were born into. Kings and queens are born into their element. Emperors and empresses create a whole new element. They create that fifth element together. They build an empire from every kingdom that they have visited, that they have learned from, that they have tapped into. I don't know how much longer this will go. This is the longest reading of the Magician readings, but it is the final one. So anyway, if it cuts off, then I'll just do a second part. But see, now you have control over this wand. You have control over this. It's it's like your walking stick, right? You're going to be moving forward, and it's going to be like this. you created this, right? You got the tree, you found the perfect walking stick, and you cut it, you sanded it, you painted it, you decorated it, you adorned it with trinkets, whatever. It's yours. It's your home, and your home is kind of with you. And that wands, in this case, this wand or this walking stick is really your heart center. It's your sun. It's your divine path, because that's what you're walking on within, right? You could be going on a walk without as well, but you're choosing this, and you see it's come from the clouds, right? This ace, this is like, you've created this, you manifested this, you called this in, you dreamed this, you made this happen, and it's yours. And look how girthy it is. What's wrong with me? Anyway, but it's a new passion, right? So this, when you've purified your sexual energy and you've been with multiple casual people in the past, when you come into this, this is going to be everything. It's going to, the divine union is going to cater to your ultimate passions. Of the physical, of the mental, of the spiritual, of the emotional, the financial stability, right? That represents money, pentacles, stability. It's about health and wealth, wellness. It's about that home, right? The Four of Wands. See, this Knight of Wands is you're following your heart. You're following that new path. You're following like a charioteer. But see, they don't have all this luggage with them. This individual is free. This individual they have everything they need, because they know that their home is not defined by their four walls. It's not divine. It's not defined by, like, our family is not defined by blood. It's defined by water. Water makes blood move, right? Blood may be thicker than water, but it doesn't move without it, honey. It doesn't flow without it. So this is about you really tapping into, and that using that wand's energy, that fire energy, like the sun, because the sun is our heart center. You're tapping into your heart center, and the heart, the proverbial heart, is water. So that's how you heal that Three of Swords. That's how you heal the past traumas. It's that determination, that decision, and that discernment to choose yourself, to choose your heart over anything else. And when you are this independent, and you've left codependency behind, you've left addictions, you've left conditions behind, this is an unconditional person. This individual is inspired and creative and ingenuitive. It's all the light aspects of the elements. This person has it all, right? I mean, this isn't the Emperor and the Empress, but when we're talking about minor arcana, that's like the energy within. When you're doing like a love reading and you're reading this as a past person, this individual is casual connections. This person's in and out, flighty. But when you're the Knight of Wands for yourself, all of that energy, it doesn't have to be in and out. It doesn't have to be flighty, because you're just giving it to yourself, right? This is all about self. That's what the Magician is. That's why you need to be single, and you need to do this work before you come into divine union. Because if you're relying on this to be somebody else, right? And you see these white horses. Now this is a brown horse. It's like it's brought from the sky. This is more tangible. This is more reality, waking life. Okay? This is more in the physical. And they're actually facing all of this past work, right? So this is all internal. This individual is the savior of their own heart. This is where you are the 5D and the 3D come together. And what happens when that happens? The Four of Wands. This is the ultimate union. This is the four elements coming together. This is the 4 kingdoms, the Emperor and the Empress coming together. And that makes, for the only 5 that is not a lack, the 5th element, consciousness. This is the ultimate union. This is utopia, all right? And this is the family that you two will create, because you're creating a space for unconditional love, which is only going to attract unconditional love. You two are both going to be so powerful that anything lower than unconditional love, anything non-divine or demonic, is going to be, it's going to be stopped way back at one of these points on the path, right? It's like you have the ultimate security system because you're divinely protected. So yeah, maybe your life path 4, lots of 4s, but 4 is the ultimate balance. It's 11-11. You could be seeing 11-11. You know, maybe you're listening to that frequency. But it is about balance of the 4 elements. It's becoming the magician, the divine alchemist. What's at the bottom here? King of Pentacles and Queen of Swords. 2 of Cups. Anyway. And that's all, folks. So, yeah, if you want to follow along or go back through these magician readings for more insight into the different elements and how they kind of culminate to this place of divine union of self, and then divine union with your person. You can find them here. You can follow me on Instagram. You could do both. You could do neither. Free will. Either way, I wish you well.